to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel. Great to have you joining us today, and we are going to conclude, after many episodes, our focus and theme of setbacks and comebacks with something that I think is a lot of fun, which is my list of the top 10 greatest comebacks of all time, and we will dig into that in just a moment. But before we do, just want to say that we've got one more episode coming this year in 2022, and it is one that I really hope that you'll listen to. I think it can help you quite a bit because it's entitled 10 Life Lessons Learned This Year. 10 Life Lessons Learned This Year. So powerful stuff. We all need to learn the lessons, and it goes along with the setbacks and comebacks idea of, learn the lesson, look for the lesson. And even if you don't have major setbacks, there's lessons to be learned for sure. And by the way, the first episode of the new year is going to be 15 daily habits for a successful year. So those are coming up. Those are coming up, and then we're going to launch into something I'm going to call Dream Year, make 2023 your dream year. So we got a lot of good stuff in the future, but we're going to finish out this year with the 10 life lessons learned. But today we're going to focus on finishing out this theme of comebacks and setbacks and comebacks with the 10 greatest comebacks. And before that, I'll just say a few things. One is I'm really excited about my new year. I've got a couple of very exciting new endeavors that I'm going to get involved with. And as those become more definable and clear, I'll share those with you. But I'm excited, and as always, I just would point you to rickmcdaniel.com. One of the things we now have is like a donate button. So if you enjoy this podcast, we don't have any advertisers. We don't have anybody that supports it per se. So we'd appreciate your support. If you've been listening this year and they're like, I got a lot of good content out of this podcast this year, you can make a tax deductible donation. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, so you can make a donation for your for tax purposes. You'll be able to do that, and we obviously would greatly appreciate any help that you can give. We'll take it. We appreciate it greatly, and we're happy that we now have this. People have sent checks and stuff before, but now you can do it the simple, easy way and just click the button, and they're nice, safe, and secure with your debit or credit card or whatever you want to do. So if you're willing to do that, great. It's not too late to get This Is Living, my book, for a Christmas gift. I think you still have some time. I know you do. Amazon can still get it there in time. So great, inexpensive gift to get. And my book sales have gone up here in this month as people are doing exactly what I'm talking about. They're buying the book as a gift. So you can do that. And of course, it is a great thing to get for yourself for the new year. It is absolutely a perfect thing to have to start your new year. Say, okay, every day I'm going to read this little 2-page, 3 minutes of reading and get myself motivated, inspired for the day. And that's what This Is Living will give you, 100 of those readings. So get a copy now, and right when the new year starts, you can jump right into it. So hope you'll do that. All right, so let's talk about the top 10 greatest comebacks. So first of all, how do you come up with such a list? What's your criteria? So here is my criteria, the measurement that I used. The nature of the setback and the prominence of the comeback. So the measurement for each was simply, what's the span, the greatness of the span, you might say, between the setback and the comeback? I mean, there's been many great comebacks in history, and I believe there are many more to come, including yours. But there's certain comebacks that simply stand apart for various reasons. And as we go through this list, you'll see that not all of them are even individual comebacks. Some of them are team or even country comebacks. So here goes. Let's jump in. And I'm going in descending order. So I'm going to start at what I would consider to be number 10 and work my way down to number 1. And I'm going to say number 10 is the actor Robert Downey Jr. He had a great amount of success at a young age. He starred in a number of films in his very early part of his life in the 80s and 90s. He received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor for the 1992 film Chaplin. I mean, think about that, 30 years ago. But after this promising start, he started to have problems in his personal life. And over a 5 or 6 year period, he was arrested numerous times on drug-related charges. And in April 1996, he was arrested for possession of cocaine, marijuana, and .357 Magnum while speeding down Sunset Boulevard. He was sentenced to 3 years probation, required to undergo mandatory drug testing. But that first arrest didn't stop his destructive behaviors. His setback continued. A year later, he missed a court-ordered drug test and had to spend 4 months in Los Angeles County Jail. But even the jail time didn't change his behavior. He missed another drug test in 1999, sentenced to 3 years at the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility in state prison. He received a really good break when he was unexpectedly released early for previous time served. But the addiction was so strong, he was arrested again. And in 2001, July, he pleaded no contest. Avoided jail time because of California's Proposition 36 aimed at helping nonviolent drug offenders to overcome addiction through court-ordered rehabilitation. Finally, in 2004, he decided, and he told Oprah in 2004, it's not hard to overcome these problems. It's hard to decide that you actually are going to do it. After 5 years of setbacks, he decided he was going to have a comeback. And really, things really took off when he was in that crazy film Tropic Thunder, Best Supporting Actor nomination. And then, of course, he landed the role in Iron Man. And boy, oh boy, that has turned into an incredible franchise for him. Entertainment Weekly named him Entertainment of the Year. Time named him as one of the 100 most influential people in 2008. And so here he's had the Iron Man and Sherlock Holmes, which also earned him a Golden Globe for Best Performance. So he has had an incredible comeback. He's one of the most well-known actors. But boy, oh boy, he was really in a bad place for a long time. Next would be Josh Hamilton, first overall pick of the draft in 1999 with Tampa Bay, but got in a car accident and got him on injured reserve. And during that time when he was missing a lot of games because of injuries, he started self-medicating with drugs and alcohol, and he got suspended, put in treatment program, but that didn't stop. And finally, he was suspended indefinitely because he'd become a full-blown addict and substance abuse has taken over his life. So again, similar in this way to Robert Downey Jr., the difference, of course, being he's an athlete, so it's a little different with his body. One morning, he woke up on his grandmother's doorstep, and it just looked really, really, really bad for him in terms of what his future was going to be. But he decided, I had to change. I had to make a difference in my life. He went to faith. He tells a story of how he said that he had a dream and he felt that Jesus' presence was with him, and he had peace, he wasn't scared, and he felt like God is going to help him turn it around. And he had a remarkable comeback, selected to his first All-Star team in 2008. Then he was in the Home Run Derby and set an opening round record at that time, 28 home runs, second most home runs all-time ever with 35 at that point. And that was that was a huge thing because it really got a lot of immediate attention. And then 3 straight years All-Star team 2010. He won the batting title. He was the MVP of the American League, was also the MVP of the ALCS. Just, again, amazing to basically have almost lost his life and his career and then to turn it around and take a team, the Rangers, that had never won an American League pennant and lead them to 2 pennants, World Series appearances, MVP, an amazing turnaround, a remarkable turnaround. All right, let's switch out of that to acting in sports and entertainment to Ulysses S. Grant, one of our former presidents. I don't know if you know much about him, but he has quite a story. Of course, he was both a general and a president, an American hero, really, in the true sense of the word. But an amazing story. His life story is pretty remarkable. Was kind of an introverted guy, soft-spoken, went to West Point, became an Army officer, served in the Mexican-American War, and then was sent out to the new Oregon Territory out west. He did not like it at all, didn't like the climate, didn't like being separated from his wife and children, and in his depression, he drank too much, and he ended up quitting the Army, gave up his officer commission, and went home. Tried his hand at a couple different things, failed at real estate and in business, and actually was working in his family's tannery, if you can imagine that, making very little money when the Civil War broke out. The Union Army contacted him, since he was a West Point graduate, had combat experience in the Mexican-American War, and asked him to rejoin, and he decided to do that. Actually didn't do very well in his first battle, but then he had a great victory at Fort Donaldson and then won big battle at Shiloh, and that got the attention of President Lincoln, who was going through many different generals trying to find one that could actually end this war. And he said, I think I found the guy who can get the job done. And so he said Grant was somebody who actually would fight. So Grant got promoted until he was the top general of the Union forces. And he's the one who won the Civil War. Not with fancy maneuvers or clever strategy, but just by confronting the Confederate Army in the field and defeating them. He was a guy that had like a rumpled uniform, an unkept beard, ever-present cigar, was not, the perfect look, but he's the guy that accepted the surrender of the Confederates from General Lee at Appomattox in Virginia, which is the state in which I am recording this right now. He then became elected president of the United States. In fact, he was reelected 2 terms as president. And they were terms with political and financial scandals, although none were directly involving him. But he managed to bring a calming influence to the country and peace to the North and South. The culmination of his comeback was his memoirs. He wrote that when he left the presidency. And the book Memoirs is about his life, and it became at that time the best-selling book in American history. The only book that sold more would be the Bible. This shy boy from humble beginnings who really failed in the early part of his life had an incredible comeback to be the top general that won the Civil War, the biggest war, biggest awfulest thing that's ever happened in our country, elected president twice, and then wrote the best-selling book at that time. That is an amazing comeback, an amazing turnaround. All right, how about to the sport I love, football, and Kurt Warner, Super Bowl champion, 2-time NFL MVP, Hall of Famer, but man, he had some real setbacks in his life. He played at the University of Northern Iowa, went undrafted, was invited to try out for the Packers, but was released. No other options, so he took a job working at a grocery store in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, making $5.50 an hour, and worked as a graduate assistant coach for Northern Iowa's football program. No NFL team was giving him an opportunity, so he signed with Arena Football, Iowa Barnstormers, and during his 2 seasons in Arena Football, he was named first team All-Arena and led his team to 2 Arena Bowl appearances. Finally, the Rams signed him in 1988, but they allocated him to NFL Europe. There was a league in NFL Europe, but by the way, one of my friends used to coach there. this team, Amsterdam Admirals. He led the league in touchdowns and passing yards, and then he came back to the Rams as their third-string quarterback. But 1999 would really change his entire life and career because Trent Green, the starter, tore his ACL and Warner became the starter. He had never been a starter in the NFL. Actually played virtually no football in the NFL at that point. He would have one of the best seasons all time. 4,353 yards passing, 41 touchdown passes, completion rate of 65%. This high-powered offense that he led was called the greatest show on turf, and they went to the Super Bowl and won over the Tennessee Titans. He threw for 414 yards and was named Super Bowl MVP. Seventh player to be an MVP of the league and a Super Bowl MVP. He won a second MVP when he again led his team to the Super Bowl where they lost to the Patriots in a very close game. You may remember they stopped his receiver who caught the pass from Warner at the 1 yard line. Amazing. That was an amazing Super Bowl for sure. After all this incredible comeback success, 2 MVPs in 3 seasons, he had another setback when he injured his throwing hand. He couldn't play at all in 2002. And then in 2003, he was replaced as starter because he fumbled 6 times in the opening season game, and he was released and then signed with the Giants, where he was replaced in the middle of the season by rookie Eli Manning. And at that point became a free agent. He signed a 1-year contract with Arizona Cardinals. And, man, he just, he took off. But then he was replaced by another rookie quarterback, which was Matt Leinart out of USC. So finally, Warner regains his job and ends up leading the Cardinals to their first playoff appearance in years. And the Super Bowl against the Steelers, they lost another very close Super Bowl. Warner threw for 377 yards, making him the record holder for the top 3 passing yard totals in Super Bowl history at that time. So it's just even after his second setback, he comes back to another Super Bowl. He retires as a 4-time All-Pro, 3 Super Bowls, threw over 100 touchdowns for 2 different teams. One of the really great clutch players, and also became an NFL Man of the Year, which has to do with your off-the-field contributions. So just an amazing story of an undrafted guy who can't even get a job, was working at a grocery store, who plays in arena football in NFL Europe, trying to get his shot, finally gets his shot, wins the Super Bowl, then once has an injury and has another setback, comes back from that, back to the Super Bowl. Quite a story. All right, here's my next one, Serena Williams. Incredible career from very meager beginnings in Compton, California, to the world's #1 tennis player. 22 Grand Slam titles, 14 Grand Slam doubles titles with her sister Venus. In 2003, she won 4 consecutive Grand Slam tournaments. Just absolutely amazing. But then, in July 2010, she stepped on some broken glass while leaving a restaurant in Germany, and she injured a tendon in her right foot. She had surgery to repair it, planned to return to tennis in the fall, but she re-injured her foot, had a second operation in October. Then, in February of the next year, she suffered a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot in her lung, after flying from New York to Los Angeles. She saw her doctor, and they performed a CT scan, discovered the clot. Then she had to be immobilized for 6 months in 2 different casts after her foot surgeries. Then being sedentary allowed blood to pool in her legs, increasing the risk of a clot that can move to other parts of the body. Then, now listen, it goes on. Then a few weeks later, she developed a hematoma. I've had one. It's not pleasant, a pocket of blood that swells under the skin. She had hers in her stomach. I had mine on my shin. It happened after she gave herself an injection of blood-thinning medication that had been prescribed to her to treat the clots in her lung. She hit a blood vessel. Her blood didn't clot. She started bleeding on the inside. The hematoma started out being the size of a golf ball, ended up being the size of a grapefruit. Serena was rushed to the hospital where doctors had to remove the hematoma surgically. All of these health scares took a toll on her. She couldn't function like normal, playing tennis, driving, working out, even walking. She spent a lot of time at home during her recovery. Not easy for a person used to going 200 miles an hour every day. Very discouraged. There was a time she didn't even leave her house for 2 days when she was at her lowest. Her mental health struggles brought her to a place where she thought she may never play tennis again. But in 2011, mid-2011, she began her comeback. And over the next 4 years, she would win 8 Grand Slams. So again, let's just pause. All that bad stuff that happened to her health-wise, and now she comes out of all that and wins 8 Grand Slam titles. Won the gold medal in the 2012 Olympics. WTA Tour Champion 2012, 13, 14, 15. Oldest player to reach and hold the world number 1 and to win a Grand Slam tournament. Dominated. Absolutely dominated. She again completed in 2015 the Serena Slam. All 4 Grand Slam tournaments won consecutively. Incredible success after a really, really, really bad health situation. Became Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year in 2015. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, how about we switch up now? Post-war Germany and Japan. The aftermath of World War II left Germany and Japan devastated. Most of the large cities destroyed, countless lives lost, shortages in food and housing and transportation, not to mention the humiliation of worldwide defeat. Couldn't get much bigger setback, but those governments and economies completely restructured after the war. And it's just amazing what took place. Their comebacks are miraculous. Germany and Japan are the 3rd and 4th largest economies in the world. There's us, America, there's China, there's Germany, there's Japan. Now to go from total devastation to being number 3 and number 4 in the world, it's amazing. Japan lost 2 million lives. Over 100 cities were destroyed. Industrial production was at less than 10% of pre-war levels. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, their economy was just in shambles, absolute in shambles. But they started focusing on modern technology, HD TVs, DVDs, players, audio equipment, and they just remade themselves. And they used their technology focus to grow in an incredibly large rate. The Germans, they had lived under price controls for 12 years with Hitler and rationing for 9. And I mean, man, oh man. So industrial production ramped up just 50% once the war got over and they started being able to get it together. That their economy just was able to take off. Then Germany was reunified in 1990, and that brought about another incredible comeback, more laborers, more industries, and they've just become just an amazing. I've been to Germany. I mean, it is a well-oiled machine. All right. We got to get moving to finish this on time here. I'm going to say the 1993 playoff game with the Buffalo Bills. Now, you may say, hey, Rick, what about the Patriots comeback in the Super Bowl? And it is incredible, but this is the greatest postseason comeback, even greater than what the Patriots did. But it's certainly arguable about which one of these was greater, because you could say, well, that was the Super Bowl, this was a playoff game. Yeah, but this was a even greater comeback. The Oilers had beaten the Bills 28-3 the week before. So, it didn't look good. And then Warren Moon had already thrown for 220 yards and 4 touchdowns at halftime. They were losing 28-3. They lost the game previously 28-3. They were losing 28-3 at halftime. Went down 35-3. And then the comeback began. It's just an incredible story. They a remarkable stupid decision by the Oilers to do a squib kick that the Bills recovered, got in great field position, scored their first touchdown, and then they tried an onside kick, and the Bills did, and they were successful. 4 plays later, Don Beebe scores another touchdown. Then the Bills forced the Oilers to punt for the first time in the game. Short punt, 25 yards. Bills score again, and all of a sudden it's 35-24. In 10 minutes into the third quarter, the Bills had scored 21 points, and the Oilers had run 3 plays for 3 yards. Bills then intercepted Moon, scored on a fourth down attempt, another touchdown pass, this time to Andre Reed. It's just an amazing story. In fact, they actually went ahead 38-35. Then finally the Oilers went on a drive and got a field goal to tie it and send it to overtime, just like the other greatest comeback in football in the Super Bowl with the Patriots. Also went into overtime, very similar scenario. Oilers then won the coin toss, but could have won the game without the Bills ever getting the ball. But Moon threw an interception. Reich led the Bills down the field. They kicked a 32-yard field goal and won the game. Incredible, unbelievable. Here's another incredible. This one, as a New Englander, is as sweet as they come. For me, native New Englander, and the Red Sox 2004 playoffs. The Red Sox hadn't won the World Series in so many years. They were incredibly successful in the beginning of football, baseball. They won the very first World Series. It was won by the Red Sox, and they won 4 more World Championships. Things looked very bright, and then what's called the curse of the Bambino, and the Red Sox traded Babe Ruth to the Yankees, and they never won another championship. They had played in 4 World Series, but never won any of them, even with people like Ted Williams and Carl Yastrzemski, 2 of the greatest players ever to play baseball. 2004, they're playing the hated Yankees, their rivals, and they lost the first 3 games. No one had ever come back from a 3-0 deficit to win a postseason series ever in Major League history. And Game 4 went into extra innings. And Big Papi, David Ortiz, walk-off homer. Game 5 went to extra innings. Ortiz had an RBI single. And the Red Sox then went back to Yankee Stadium. And it's just incredible story. Pitching of Curt Schilling with stitches in his ankle. Now they won 3 games and even the series. Incredibly, the Yankees, feeling the pressure, lost that game as well. And really, that's unbelievable. The greatest comeback ever in postseason history. But then they went on to win the World Series. The only team against the Cardinals, the only team that has more World Series than the Red Sox is the Yankees and the Cardinals, and they played the Cardinals and they won 4 straight games against the Cardinals in the World Series and swept them, and the greatest comeback was complete. Abraham Lincoln, unbelievable story, grew up in incredibly challenging circumstances. I am a Lincoln guy. I can tell you all about Lincoln. Red, but he just was somebody who tried his hand at business and failed not once but twice. His first true love died of probably typhoid fever. He had what most of us would call today a nervous breakdown. He just failed at all kinds of things in his life, but he did get elected to the Illinois House of Representatives, but then he tried to run for Congress and lost. He ran for the U.S. Senate twice and lost. He ran as vice president, lost. Previous to his run for president, Lincoln had only won 1 national election his entire political career. And yet, he would become the president in 1860 and lead our country through the greatest challenge it has ever faced by far. His deft political skill and leadership acumen with dealing with all these challenges was just absolutely incredible. He gave 2 incredible speeches and just led this country, got reelected, saved America. America would not be what it is today without Abraham Lincoln. He started out with incredible setbacks and had a marvelous, amazing comeback to be the greatest president America's ever known. All right, that's pretty hard to beat, but here's number one. This one really is in a landslide, and that would be the resurrection of Jesus Christ. There's no more important person that ever lived than Jesus, and yet he was killed. He died, and then he rose up from the grave. That is the ultimate setback, death, the ultimate comeback, resurrection. And there's nothing that really can match the resurrection of Jesus as the greatest comeback of all time. And of course, his comeback becomes our comeback, because when we accept Christ into our lives and receive forgiveness for our sins, we then are guaranteed a spot in heaven. So we go from the setback of sin to the comeback of heaven, all because of the comeback of Jesus. So the resurrection of Jesus, number one on our list, top 10 greatest comebacks of all time. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.